Good morning and welcome to the Chamber's webinar series for Small Business Resiliency, our program series celebrating, highlighting, and informing our small businesses and entrepreneurs. We're going to get started here just in a moment as folks continue to populate into the room. So give us just a few more seconds and we'll get started with our program. Okay, it looks like folks are coming into the room. Again, I just want to say good morning and thank you for joining us for our Small Business Resiliency webinar series, a webinar partnership with the City of Long Beach, the Long Beach Recovery Act, Small Business and Nonprofit Grants Program. I would be remiss if I didn't say and start this webinar by saying a special thanks to our title sponsor of our webinar series for this one and many more to come in the future, AES, who is serving as our title sponsor for the Small Business Resiliency Programming Series. For those who don't know me, my name is Jeremy Harris. I'm the President and CEO of the Long Beach Area Chamber of Commerce, and we have a wonderful presentation for you this morning. Don't worry if you miss it. We are recording this. We will be sending this back out to the attendees that are on this, along with sharing it with many other folks that are in the community that this information is relevant to. We'll also post it on the Chamber's YouTube page and website, where it's cataloged with numerous other webinars that we've done over the last few months and going back to the last couple of years as well. So just before we get into the program, a few housekeeping items. Please note, like I said before, this webinar is recorded. It's going to be distributed out to all the folks on this and in the community and through the Chamber's membership. Also, if you've got questions as we get through the presentation, please use that Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen so we can answer those questions for you at the end of the presentation. At this time, I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker who's going to take us through a presentation about LBRA, and that's Courtney Chatterson. Courtney has worked in the Office of Sustainability for 5 years as the communication specialist and launched the city's Green Business Program under the California Green Business Network. That's in her previous role. She's now moved on to the Economic Development Department's Business Development Bureau, where she serves as the LBRA Program Manager, where she's leading all of the LB Recovery Act programs that support small business here in Long Beach and also through their economic recovery. She has an MS in Environmental Studies from Cal State Fullerton, an MA in International Development from the Graduate Institute of Geneva, Switzerland. She might have to tell us about that a little bit. So at this time, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Courtney to take us through the LBRA program. Courtney, it's all yours.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Apologies if I cough or sniffle. I'm getting over a cold, so that might happen. I am excited to share about these grant programs. They have been open for applications for almost a month now, and we're just happy to see so much interest in the community and hoping that these can help support all of your businesses and nonprofits. So I'll give a bit of an overview of these programs, and then I'll also show you the online application platform. So just a quick overview of the Long Beach Recovery Act, in case you're not familiar. On March 16th, 2021, the City Council approved the Long Beach Recovery Act, becoming one of the first major cities to approve COVID-19 recovery programs. And this is funded through the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, as well as some other funding sources that have been incorporated into our local Recovery Act. So LBRA includes multiple programs that will advance economic recovery. And so this includes these grants, which is direct financial support to small businesses and nonprofits, providing free technical assistance. So we are working with some local community-based organizations to help provide that technical assistance. And we also have our BizCare program. And then marketing and promoting the city to attract tourism. That's happening through multiple channels. Providing digital resources, so that's digital inclusion programs that are coming soon, and then helping to market additional businesses and generate additional customer spending locally and more. And this is just a snapshot of the economic development programs that are coming and that are launching. So just to make you aware that these grants are only one piece of a much larger picture of relief programs through economic development and through the city as a whole. So these grants specifically, this is just a quick snapshot. We have 4 programs. The first 2, Restaurant, Brewery, and Bar Relief Grant and Personal Service and Fitness Relief Grant, are very similar. They're for 2 separate sectors of businesses that were hit particularly hard by COVID-19 health regulations and restrictions. So restaurant, brewery, and bars, really any food service business can apply to this grant. It is tiered. Both of these grants have tiered awards from $5,000 to $25,000, and these tiers are based on annual revenue for the business. And then eligible uses of funding can cover business debt, commercial rent, payroll, utilities, supplies and materials, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And we also added in any expenses related to theft, vandalism, or damage to property. The Personal Service and Fitness Relief Grant, like I said, it's very similar, but it's for all of those sort of personal care businesses like salons, barbershops, and then fitness like boutique gyms. None of the big chains, but these are really focused on small local businesses. So if you fit into either of those categories, you should apply for those grants. On the next slide, we also have the Small Business Relief Grant, and this is meant to cover any business that is not included in the first 2 programs. So if you are part of the restaurant, brewery, and bar, or personal service and fitness sector, one of those sectors, then you should not apply for the Small Business Relief Grant. There has been some confusion around that. We've gotten a lot of duplicates. Your application would just get rejected from this grant if you applied for it as well, but you would still be in the running for the other grant. So just don't do that. It makes more work for us on the back end. So the Small Business Relief Grant is a catch-all for any other business if you don't belong in those first 2 grants. It is a smaller amount that's going to be dispersed per business, just because we have a smaller bucket of funding and we want to try to spread it as widely as possible and help as many businesses as we can with the funding we have. So these grant awards are tiered similarly, but the awards range from $2,500 to $10,000 per business, again, based on gross annual revenue. And the same eligible uses of funding for that. And then our nonprofit relief grant is the last one on here. This is for all local nonprofits, and we also include fiscally sponsored organizations in that. And that does require a bit more documentation for fiscally sponsored organizations, but we do want to make sure that we're not leaving out a large chunk of our smaller local nonprofits that are taking advantage of fiscal sponsorship. So those are tiered grant awards, again, from $5,000 to $25,000, and it's based on annual revenue or your annual budget. Same eligible uses of funding. So this can cover those admin costs for nonprofits that aren't normally covered by other grants, which we hope can help support just keeping our nonprofits going and providing services to our community. To get into a little bit more detail on these, so eligibility for businesses, and this also applies mostly to nonprofits as well, although nonprofits have a little bit more. They must be located and operating within Long Beach. So your business address has to be in the city of Long Beach. You must have a current City of Long Beach business license, so that applies to nonprofits as well. All nonprofits are required to have a City of Long Beach business license, and so it is a requirement for eligibility for these grants. And if you need assistance on that for nonprofits, you can reach out to our BizCare hotline. I'll talk a little bit about that later. The businesses must be independently owned for-profit business, which obviously isn't a requirement for nonprofits. There's not ownership in the same way. You must have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, and we ask you to attest to that in the application form. And you must be currently open for business. Unfortunately, if you've closed, these grants cannot assist you. And you also have to be a small business or nonprofit. So that means having less than 200 employees and less than $2 million in annual gross revenue. And we also ask for businesses, all businesses and nonprofits have to be established and operating by March 1 of 2022. So it's very recent. We do support startups through these grants and new nonprofits. So if you don't have tax documentation yet because you're so new, that's okay. That doesn't disqualify you. It just puts you in the lowest grant tier. as a startup organization. So please do still apply. If you have any questions about how to do the application, I'll have some resources for you farther down. So required documents, this is all that's required for businesses. There are a few more for nonprofits, depending on if you're fiscally sponsored or your own nonprofit. Always a copy of photo ID and the latest tax return. So actually this needs to be updated. It should say 2020 or 2021. So whatever your latest tax return is, that's what we want to see. And then your W-9. For nonprofits, we also ask for articles of incorporation, and for fiscally sponsored organizations, we ask for your annual budget and your sponsorship agreement. And I might be missing one other document, but that's pretty much it. We try to keep it as low on required documents as possible to just be able to verify what we need to for the purposes of eligibility for these grants. And these grants are not first come, first serve. So don't think that you've missed the boat by not applying on the first day. We are not going to be giving out the money to everybody who just jumped on it on day one when it opened. We are prioritizing to ensure equitable distribution of these resources across our community. So businesses will be scored using a weighted selection process to prioritize resources for diverse entrepreneurs, brick and mortar businesses, businesses in existence prior to March 2020, so prioritizing businesses that have weathered the pandemic, businesses that have not previously received grant funding from the city through one of our relief programs, and businesses located in low and moderate income areas. And then nonprofits will have a similar weighted selection process, prioritizing resources for nonprofits that provide important social safety net services to our communities. So if you are providing food, shelter resources, health resources, things like that, that are really essential to our community through this pandemic. We want to make sure we support that. Serving BIPOC communities led by BIPOC leaders, and serving areas of the city that are highly impacted by COVID-19 hospitalization rates. We are, well, I'll get to that later. So important dates. Yes, this is what I was going to get into. So March 1 was the deadline for businesses to have a business license in order to qualify for these grants. We are working with a couple of businesses on exceptions. It's very, very limited exceptions to this policy, and only on in cases where they had a business license and for whatever reason had to maybe move location or change ownership, but the business has still been in existence this whole time. And so their new business license just doesn't reflect that because of that change. So if you had a business license prior to March 1, then you are able to apply. March 9th, we began our outreach through our community-based organization partners, and March 16th, all 4 of the grant applications went live on Live Stories /Forward platform. So that's our third-party vendor that we're using to provide this online application service, and I will walk you through that application shortly. April 15th is the next important date, which is tomorrow. So tomorrow at 5 p.m., we're going to be taking all of the grant applications that have been submitted thus far and begin the application review process. So what that means is if you apply after that date, you'll just be in the next round of review rather than being in this first round, which could mean getting funding a little bit sooner. So if you are in a place where you want to just jump on this and get in this first round, I encourage you to apply by tomorrow at 5 p.m. But again, these aren't going to be first come, first serve. So if you do need more time to get your application together, that's going to be fine. We're not going to be expending all of our funding in this first round. We're going to make sure we reserve at least 50% for the next month while the application is open until May 15th. So May 15th is the hard deadline when applications are going to be closing for these relief grants, except for the nonprofit relief grant. I'm jumping the gun a little bit on announcing this here, so don't tell on me to the city, especially the city PIO officer. But June 15th is going to be the new deadline for the nonprofit relief grant. And then July 15th is going to be the deadline for nonprofits only to have a business license. There's just been a lot of confusion in the nonprofit community about whether it's required to have a business license, and especially for fiscally sponsored organizations, if they need one and how they should get one. And the answer is yes, all nonprofits are required to have a business license in the city of Long Beach, and fiscally sponsored organizations have a couple of options for how to do that. So again, you can always reach out to us for advice on that, and I'll get to our contact information for that in another slide or two. But so if you're a nonprofit, you have some extra time. If you don't have a business license yet, we definitely encourage you to get one. First of all, because it's required by the city for you to have one. And second of all, so that you can potentially benefit from these grant programs. So this is the resource for application assistance. Our BizCare hotline is available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We have some really great interns that are able to answer the phone, answer your emails. If they don't have the answer to all of your questions, they will follow up with you and get the answers for you. So this is related to these grants, related to business licensing, related to any question you have about any city services, really. You can call this number and we will find answers for you. Excuse me. Oh, this cold isn't leaving me alone yet. So you can call the number 562-570-4biz, that's 4249, or you can email the 4biz@longbeach.gov email address. We also have pop-up locations around the city. If you'd like to visit someone in person and get in-person assistance with your application or any other city services, you can do that. The latest schedule for those pop-ups is at longbeach.gov/bizcare. And those are Monday through Thursday from 9 or 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. So if you just look at the schedule to see the location for each day and when it's open, you're welcome to visit. You can either schedule an appointment ahead of time or just show up. And I don't have that link on the slide, but I can drop it in the chat for you. That's longbeach.gov/bizcare, BIZCARE. So we are also using the vendors I mentioned, Live Stories, to provide online applications that are user-friendly and accessible. It provides translation services through Google Translate. So there is the option to view the application in multiple languages, though it isn't perfect. And Live Stories does provide technical assistance for any issues with their platform as well. So if you're having issues uploading your documents or getting signed into your account, you can always reach out to their hotline. Their number is down here, 855-582-3973 or forward-support@livestories.com. And their call center is open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. So multiple avenues for support. Our 4Biz hotline is also available if you have any of the typical issues that are user error, but we can't fix anything on the back end. So if it is a technical difficulty with Live Stories, then it's best to reach out directly to them. This is just in the wrong order. So BizCare pop-ups are available. This is a picture of one of our pop-ups, and they are equipped with laptops and printers and scanners. So if you need assistance getting your documents uploaded, they can also assist with that. And I somehow don't have the website on here either, but I will get, here we go. longbeach.gov/bizcare. That is for all things BizCare if you need support through that service. And then all of the grants can be found at longbeach.gov/smallbizgrants. So that's a great resource for you to find the links to all of these applications, and each of the application or the grant landing pages has more specific detail about that grant, its eligibility requirements, and it has an FAQ on there for any other questions you might have about it before you even log in to start your application. So these are the main contact people for you to know. me, Courtney Chatterson, the program manager. There's my email address. Alcira is also supporting on this. So she can help answer questions. And Katie Vega is our BizCare program specialist. So she is the lead for the BizCare team. So any issues with BizCare or needing support from them, she's also a contact to know. And then before we get into Q&A, I do just want to show you the platform really quickly. So I'm going to go over here and we'll just open up one of the grant pages. So actually, I'll start at our website. So longbeach.gov/smallbizgrants takes you here. And this is where you see all 4 of the programs listed with the links to apply. So if we go to the Small Business Relief Grant, it takes you here. It has some general information about the grant with a link to apply, but it also has a lot of information below. So if you have any questions, this is a great resource to check first. How to apply, it has information on how to sign up for the Forward platform, which is Live Stories is the company, Forward is their platform name. So you'll see those 2 names throughout here. There's the eligibility requirements and required documents. There's a video tutorial on how to create your account. So if you're getting confused through the process, this is good to reference. And then there's frequently asked questions down here that can give you more information about any of the things you might be looking for. And if you have any questions that aren't answered, again, you can reach out to the BizCare hotline, is a great resource. When you click on apply here, it'll take you to a login page where you can click here to create your account. I already have an account that I made for a test business, so I'm just going to log in. And this is what you'll see. So one thing to be aware of, you see this potentially eligible flag on here. If you are logging in for the first time and you've never entered any of your information, this might tell you that you're ineligible. And that's just because it doesn't have any information about you yet. Excuse me. This is just a program that they have been building out in the platform that looks for certain information in your profile and lets you know what programs you might be eligible for. So if it says that you're ineligible, don't worry about it. I encourage you to just go directly to the application that you would like to, for the program you'd like to apply for, and fill out the information through that. One of the things that businesses have been getting hung up on is this about section, which is basically the profile information, and trying to fill out everything in here. This is not necessary. We don't look for a DUNS number or a SAMS number. You don't really need to fill out the description, the address and contact information. We just need the address, but there's, options to add staff in here. If you do have staff that you want informed about your grant application and to just help you support it, you can add your staff here, but it is not required for the grant, and be aware that it will email them. So don't worry about filling it out if it's not required. The document section is another one that will be needed, but if you go through the application directly instead of through this about section, you'll be able to see just what's needed, not the whole section. So I show you that to tell you not to do it. But we can go directly into the Small Business Relief Grant here and apply. So it pulls information from your about section. So if you haven't filled anything out, you'll see empty information here that you can edit. And this will let you put in any other information, but don't worry about anything that's not required in the application itself. So it just takes you back to like that standard form that they have. So showing you just so that you're clear, only what's shown in here is what's needed. And then another piece that's been confusing or causing hangups for businesses is this document section. So we do require all of these pieces to be uploaded, although these 2 are optional. So business license, we ask for the number to be filled out in one of the fields below. You could also upload it if you would like. And then if you are going to be using funding for any vandalism or property damage to cover maybe your insurance deductible, we do want to have some sort of proof uploaded here. That could be a receipt, photos, whatever you have to show that what those costs are going to. So here, let me show you what has been causing some problems. When you upload a document, you're going to select the file type. So many people have been selecting license for their driver's license, but note this fills in business license. So that's not the correct document. General and photo ID, that's what you want to upload your driver's license under, because that's what tells this system that you have uploaded a photo ID. If you don't categorize it as photo ID, it won't mark it as complete, even if you've uploaded the document, because it will think that it's something else. So make sure that all of your documents are properly categorized. So if you're going to upload a financial document, you can say it's a tax return, a W-9, Form 990 here. So if you filled this out correctly, then you can select the files and it will make sure that they are uploaded in the system, and they will show up in your application. Here, instead of required, it will say complete. It'll turn green for you. So those are the main pieces that have caused some issues for businesses. So I wanted to show you. The rest is very straightforward, entering your contact information and answering the questions as you go through. Okay, so with that, I'll stop sharing and I can answer any of your questions.
Courtney, thank you so much. We appreciate the presentation. And just as a reminder to our folks who are on, please use that Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen if you've got any questions. We've got a few that have been asked here, so I'm going to go ahead and just kick it off and we'll get right into some of the Q&A. You talked extensively about the application portal, for lack of a better term, getting in there and filling out that information. If we filled that section out and we've submitted the application and later on we think we might have entered in some incorrect information, is there a way for folks to go back and correct that, or are they automatically, kicked out of the system?
So once the application is submitted, you can't go back and edit, but if there is something essential that is missing, you can reach out to the Live Stories helpline. I'd recommend reaching out to their email. And say you uploaded the wrong tax form, for example, you uploaded 2020 and now you have your 2021 taxes through, and you want to include those instead. You can send that file to the /Live Stories. Or wait, shoot, I'm forgetting the email address. To the Live Stories email, and they can make that change for you.
That's okay, Courtney. I know we're going to send this back out to the folks, and it's been recorded so they can pick it up from inside. And I also know staff on our side has been putting in some contact info regarding any follow-up or further questions that folks may have, or just some clarification. So we'll continue to put that in the chat as well. Next question I have for you is, you had a slide that talked about who's eligible for the grants in terms of nonprofits, small businesses, bars and restaurants, of course, and personal care services. And then you had a couple of points in terms of less than 200 employees, et cetera, et cetera. Question we have is, will grants be made available to nonprofits or businesses that earn more than $2 million in revenue? So is there a revenue threshold?
There is a revenue threshold, yes. So these grants are focused on small businesses and small nonprofits. So if you receive over 2 million in annual revenue, then you do not qualify for these grants. Okay,
is 2 million the cutoff? Is it 1.5? And apologies if we missed that.
Yeah, 2 million is the cutoff.
Okay, 2 million is the cutoff. So there you go. How will businesses know that they've received the grant? I know you had dates in there of saying when folks are going to be notified. Does the money just show up in their account? Do they get an email, both, a phone call? What does that look like?
So I can't be specific about the timeline. We're going to be starting our first round of review after Friday. And so once that is done, we'll be funding sort of the top prioritized businesses for that first round. And so businesses will start being notified perhaps 3 or 4 weeks out, and there is going to be an agreement that they will need to sign, especially if they want, an electronic transfer of funds. We'll be reaching out for that information, or they can have a check mailed. Those are the 2 payment options. So if you don't hear within that time frame, that might mean that you just aren't in this first round, but you would still be considered for the next rounds. We're not dropping anyone out. So we're just making sure we reserve funding so that we have funding available for the entire application period. So we'll be funding a certain number with this first round, and then we'll continue funding applications as we move forward to the next review periods.
Perfect. Now, so it sounds like a lot of the communication will be done via email, because you've got to get some of those forms signed, and it sounds like electronic signature and all of that is going to be just fine.
Yes.
Perfect. Keeping on that same topic in terms of when folks will receive the grants or when the funding rounds start, is it, in your opinion, or at least the team over there, that if you're not in this first round, that there is going to be money available for a second round as you guys review applications? Is that fair to say?
Yes. So what's going to happen is we're reviewing applications for this first batch of applications that have come through, and then at the end of April, we're going to do our second round with all of the applications that have come through in those next 2 weeks, but also including anyone that wasn't funded in the first round. Then we'll do a last round on May 15th when we close down the applications for the business grants. So we're not going to be expending all the funding. So that's why I say maybe you just weren't the highest on the priority score. But we did have a lot of applications come through in this beginning period. So we're expecting not to have quite so many in the next round, but we want to just make sure that we have enough time for businesses that need it to get their applications in. It's just part of our equity efforts in these programs to make sure that businesses that need a little extra help, or we need to do more outreach to get to them and get the information to them and help them with their application, they have enough time to get that done. So yeah, that's where that's coming from. But we don't anticipate having another entirely separate round of these grants. It's all just one application period through May 15th. And with the number of applications that have come in so far, we do anticipate we will expend all of the funding by the end of the May 15th.
Okay. Perfect. And I think I heard you correctly when you said if somebody submitted their application already a few weeks ago and they haven't heard anything as you guys start reviewing, there's nothing further they need to do. They're just going to get moved in or considered in the next review round.
There's nothing they need to do. Don't worry if you don't hear back right away. You might hear back sooner, you might hear back later. There's not really a great timeline that we can guarantee for everyone. And we have been notifying some businesses already if there are any issues in their application, but that process is just beginning. Mainly so far, it's been duplicates if you've applied to 2 different grants when it should just be 1 per business. So people have been getting notified about that.
Perfect. I appreciate that. I think you touched on this a little bit. We have another question regarding a business being disqualified if their business license has expired. I think if I remember the slide, you have a certain amount of time to make sure you've got that business license. Can you expand upon that or clarify?
Sure, yeah. So we do require all businesses to have a business license by March 1 of this year. But if you're delinquent in your payment, that's not a problem. We're not going to disqualify anyone for that, as long as your license is not closed. We just want you to have a license. It can't be closed or canceled.
Great. So rule of thumb there is if you're delinquent or your license has expired, make sure you get that paid up, ASAP.
I mean, yes, if
Right.
you can, but it's not going to disqualify you from this grant if you haven't paid your fees.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Maybe another logistics type question, if you might know the answer, is I've filled out the grant and have submitted it. How do we know if the application or the grant application was received?
So there is a section on the platform. Let me share my screen one more time.
Sure.
So over here, so you can see there's programs and then there's my application. So I haven't submitted anything, so there's nothing here, but this is where it would show up. if your application has been submitted. You'll be able to see it here. And it'll just be the title of the grant, sort of how you see it here. Just a line saying you've applied for the personal services and fitness relief grant, for example. So that's where you can kind of know, okay, this is submitted, but again, you can't make any edits after it's been submitted. It'll just exist there.
Perfect. Thanks for clarifying and showing that to us. We're getting towards the end here. We've got one or two more questions left. I just want to do a last call. If those folks that are with us have any more questions that we haven't answered yet, please use that Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Another question here is the grant going to be considered taxable income? And I think your CPA and your accountant can assist with that, but what are you telling folks as well?
So we are using American Rescue Plan Act direct funding for these programs, which should mean that there's no tax obligation, but we do recommend that you check with your accountant for any tax obligations.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Going for a last call and any Q&A. I know we've covered a lot here. Again, this is being recorded, will be sent back out to all of you who are on this webinar, and of course shared with the rest of the members and various other folks throughout the community. So if there's no other questions at this time, I just want to say, a big thank you to you, Courtney, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. And I know you're a little under the weather as well, so you hung in there and did this for us. So much appreciated for doing that. Again, a very important program. We're trying to get this information out to our small business members, nonprofits, and all of those folks that are eligible, which is many, many folks throughout the city of Long Beach, of course. I'd also like to take this time and thank our title sponsor of our entire webinar series. This is just one in a complete series that we're doing throughout this month and into next month as well. And that's our title sponsor, AES. Many other members of the chamber have helped supported this series and other webinars: Moffitt & Nickel, Verizon, Denso, Kaiser Permanente, Long Beach City College, City of Hope, Dignity Health, St. Mary's Medical Center, F&M Bank, and P2S. Thanks to all of them for allowing us to do these types of series and these webinars for the greater business community here in Long Beach. For more information regarding the Long Beach Recovery Act, please visit their website. This information is included in the chat, and once again, will be sent out in a recap of this webinar. If you've got direct questions for us here at the chamber, our staff liaison, our membership coordinator and comms manager, Marilyn Singer, you can contact her directly. Her information should be in the chat as well. Courtney, thank you again. Thanks for taking time to be with us and doing this for us today. Looking forward to seeing you in future webinar series, and we'll be back at it again. And to all of you that have joined us today, thanks again for taking a little time out. And if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to us here at the chamber. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.